Bakersfield, California, a city where the hum of highways never sleeps, and the night air carries both dust and dreams. On the east side, tucked behind an old convenience store and a row of eucalyptus trees, stood a two-story apartment complex, sun-bleached and quietly crumbling. It was the kind of place you passed without noticing, the kind of place where working-class families lived paycheck to paycheck, making do with what they had. In apartment 14, on the upper floor, Melissa Taylor was asleep, her arm draped over the tiny figure of her daughter, Emily, just 3 years old. Their twin bed creaked with every breath, and Spike, their shaggy brown mutt, slept curled in a donut at their feet, his chest rising and falling in rhythm with theirs. It was a night like any other, until it wasn't. Melissa had collapsed into bed just after midnight. Her shift cleaning classrooms at the elementary school had left her feet aching and her spirit numb. She hadn't even taken off her socks. She'd kissed Emily's forehead, whispered, "Good night, my love," and let exhaustion take her like a tide. Outside, the streets were quiet. The last bus had passed. Somewhere, a siren moaned in the distance, then faded into the dark. Daniel, her husband, was on a long-haul job, transporting produce up to Fresno overnight. He'd called earlier, promising to be home by sunrise. "Tell him I love her, and you too." She had smiled, tired but grateful. They were getting by, barely, but together. At 3:40 a.m., Melissa was jolted awake. Spike was barking. Not a playful yap, but a deep, desperate bark, the kind that comes from a place of instinct, not habit. She sat up instantly. "Spike? What is it, boy?" The dog paced near the bedroom door, barking and growling, scratching at the base like he wanted to dig through it. Emily stirred beside her, murmuring softly in her sleep, still wrapped in her blanket. Then Melissa smelled it. Smoke. Her stomach dropped. She jumped out of bed and stumbled toward the door. Her fingers shook as she reached for the knob, but before she could even turn it, a flicker of orange light slid in beneath the doorframe, followed by heat. She hesitated, then slowly opened it, and what she saw would haunt her forever. The hallway outside was an inferno. Flames clawed up the walls, racing along the ceiling like wild animals. The air itself seemed to scream. The heat punched her in the face, searing her skin. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She slammed the door shut and locked it, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "Oh my God, oh my God." She turned in circles, scanning the apartment. No way out, smoke already pushing in through the vents. The kitchen windows, useless, just a black blur outside, and the hallway, completely consumed. She ran for her phone, knocked it off the nightstand, grabbed it from the floor and dialed 911. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Please, my apartment is on fire. I'm trapped with my daughter and our dog. We can't get out. Please, please, help us." The dispatcher tried to calm her down, tried to keep her on the line, but Melissa couldn't hear much over the crackling roar outside. She dropped the phone. Spike barked again, loud and long. Then something switched inside her. Mother mode. She ran to the bathroom, turned on the shower full blast, grabbed 2 thin blankets from under the sink and shoved them under the water. The fabric darkened, soaked until heavy and dripping. She turned to Emily, who was now sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "Mama? Come here, baby. Come to Mommy. Everything's okay." Melissa pulled her close, wrapped her tightly in the soaked blanket, tucking her in like she had done 100 times before. But this time, every move felt like it carried the weight of life or death. She picked up Spike, a dog who hated being held but didn't resist this time, and placed him in Emily's lap. Then she grabbed the second blanket, soaked and cold, and pulled it around herself like armor. The bathroom was already getting hot. The mirror fogged from smoke and not steam. Melissa led them to the corner between the vanity and the wall, the smallest, tightest space. They crouched there together, hearts pounding. She could feel the fire getting closer, the smell of melting plastic, the distant groan of collapsing beams, and the terrifying realization this could be the end. Her eyes filled with tears, not for herself, but for Emily. She couldn't protect her. She had no more power left. She had done everything she could. Her breathing slowed, Her strength faded. Then, a small hand reached out and held hers. Emily's voice broke through the smoke, soft, pure, steady. "Dear God, please keep us safe from the fire." Melissa froze. "Hug us with your big bare arms. Don't let the fire hurt Mommy, or Spike, or me. Keep us safe until Daddy comes home from work. I love you. Thank you. I knew you'd hear me." And something happened. The air, moments ago choking and thick, felt calmer. The noise outside still raged, but inside that corner, wrapped in wet blankets and one whispered prayer, a stillness bloomed. Melissa felt it in her chest, a quiet warmth that had nothing to do with the fire, peace, the kind of peace you don't earn or build, the kind that is given. She clutched Emily's hand tighter, lowered her head, and whispered through tears, "Amen." Then the world faded into darkness. The fire had already done its damage. By the time the first engines pulled up to the complex on East Monterey Street, the apartment building was an open mouth of flame. Windows shattered inward from the pressure. The roof groaned and buckled. Sparks flew into the black sky like fireflies escaping a nightmare. Neighbors stood outside in pajamas and blankets, holding their children, covering their mouths. Sirens wailed, water roared, and commands flew through the air as firefighters rushed to contain what looked like the end of a place someone once called home. They had no names yet, only unit numbers. Apartment 14 was on the second floor, east side. One of the first to catch, one of the hardest to reach. Marcos Ortiz, a seasoned firefighter of 12 years, was the first to reach what was left of it once the flames had calmed to a sullen hiss. He stepped into what had once been a hallway, now reduced to blackened beams and caved ceilings, his boots crunched over wet ash. When he reached the bathroom, the only space still partially intact, he stopped. Something stopped him. Not the heat, not the debris, something else. Something that made the hair on the back of his neck rise. He turned on his flashlight and froze. There, on the wall above a corner where two soaked blankets lay bunched together, was a handprint. Clear, clean, burned into the soot as if pressed by something or someone immense. He stared at it. It wasn't smudged or smeared like a chaotic touch. It was perfect. 5 long fingers spread wide, the palm slightly angled, right above the shape of what looked like bodies, small ones. "Guys," his voice barely carried through the radio. "You need to come here, now." Within seconds, 2 more firefighters entered behind him. Riley, the youngest on the crew, stopped mid-step when she saw it. Oh my God! The wall was charred and flaking everywhere except there. That one spot was untouched by the destruction. And the blankets, they weren't burned, just steaming, damp, still giving off heat. "What is that?" someone asked softly, as if afraid to raise their voice. It's a hand," said Marcos, still crouched. "But not one of ours." Riley slowly knelt beside the blankets. Her gloved hand hovered over them. She hesitated, then touched the top layer. She jerked her hand back. "It's hot, still hot, but not burning," she whispered. She took a breath and peeled back the first blanket. She stopped breathing, then whispered, "They're alive." There, curled together in the tight corner, were 3 bodies. Melissa, Emily, and Spike, all 3 asleep. Their skin flushed with warmth but free of any burns, their clothing damp but intact. Their chests rose and fell in rhythm. Spike even snored, twitching his paws in a dream. They hadn't been pulled from the wreckage, they hadn't clawed their way out. They had simply endured, untouched, kept. Riley dropped to her knees fully now, her voice shaking. "There's no way, there's just no way. The oxygen's gone, the heat, they should have..." She couldn't finish. Marco stepped back, eyes wide, then looked again at the wall. The handprint, still there, clearer than before, almost glowing against the black. Word spread quickly across the scene. When they carried the family out on stretchers, even the medics slowed their pace in awe. Cameras from the news crew zoomed in. Neighbors gasped. One woman dropped to her knees and crossed herself. Melissa began to wake as they placed her on a gurney. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking against the sunrise. Emily sat up, wide awake. and looked around as if nothing unusual had happened. She held Spike in her lap and smiled at the firefighter walking beside her. Daniel arrived 5 minutes later. His truck screeched into the parking lot, dust kicking into the air. He leapt from the cab before it fully stopped, running through the chaos with panic on his face. He saw them, saw Melissa being wheeled out, her eyes opening, her lips moving. He saw Emily. He collapsed beside the stretcher, choking on sobs, kissing his daughter's face, then Melissa's hand, over and over again. "You're okay," he kept saying. "You're okay. You're here." Melissa could hardly speak, but managed to whisper, tears falling silently down her face. "She prayed," she said. Daniel frowned, confused. "What?" She prayed," Melissa repeated, eyes now on Emily. A few feet away, Riley approached and knelt beside the little girl. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "do you remember what happened in there?" Emily nodded without fear. "My friend came," she said, as if that explained everything. "Your friend. He said God sent him. He sat with me and told me not to be afraid. He said Mommy would sleep so she could rest and I could talk to him until you came." Riley's breath caught. Emily went on. "He said he heard my prayer, that not even a hair on our heads would be burned. And then he put his hand on the wall and stayed with us, just like I asked." No one spoke after that, not for a long time. Somewhere behind them, the sun was rising over Bakersfield. The burned shell of the apartment complex still smoked in silence, but the mark remained, the hand, as if someone beyond this world had left a message for the eyes that dared to believe. Some miracles don't come with thunder. Some don't even come with sound. Some come in silence through smoke and through the faith of a child who believed her prayer could reach heaven, and that heaven would answer.